My office used to be on San Pedro.
Oh, yeah.
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 That building there.
Sign up your meeting for YouTube live. All right.
That new
You do
hotel,
that.
Oh,
it's the West End. It's called,
Sounds off.
no.
Oh,
It's a
Excellent.
bar, it's upstairs.
in Old Town?
No, uptown. Calm down, let me tell you.
Oh, Margie's got a little picture.
This is not a game show.
Then why am I guessing?
Okay. Admit. Here comes Lelaine,
I went that
Sue
that
Fox,
top bar too.
Josiah.
We went.
Josiah.
Pretty busy.
Oh, I got him.
Oh, you have to be seated. We're like, okay, so we went all the way back to the.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, they took us back to our same table we sat at. They were like, there's a bad vibe from the start.
I was on the bar. I just went there.
All right, we're not recording yet. We are live right now, streaming to YouTube, but I can make that go away.
Your top bar.
But Trish, you hear me?
I can hear you, Margie.
I don't know. I don't know why my live picture's not coming up.
Yeah, you've got a really nice little bitty picture of a casita.
Well, it's actually my front gate.
That's a beautiful gate.
Yeah, the front entry patio, whatever. The front door is actually behind this wall.
That's nice. Makes me want to paint it, Margie.
That's an old one because I have another gate on there now.
Okay,
How do I get my live picture on here?
if you go up to somewhere on your screen, there should be a little, okay, down in the corner on the bottom left, there's a thing that says video.
Well, it says start video, it's got the red line. So let me, okay.
Stuff there,
There's
Click on the little camera, Margie.
Yeah,
Take the line away. Come on.
east.
see this little camera right here?
That's a
Margie, there you go.
I'm gonna put on mute for most of the meeting because I'm still coughing. I don't want you to record my cough.
Sounds good.
Right there, terrible, okay.
Recording now. If you're ready, Paul, you have everybody.
Everybody?
Everybody. No, we are missing Anthony.
There's
He said he was coming though.
He did say he was coming. Okay, so
Hold on, before you record, I'm gonna toss that over there. Sit over there.
he'll sit over there. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, 4:41, call this meeting to order and read the mission statement. Our mission in New America School, New Mexico works as an educational community to empower and acknowledge the uniqueness of every learner by creating an individualized pathway to educational and social success. Next, could I get motion to approve the agenda?
is that as it is?
Actually, Mr. President, I would like to remove number 10, the JMT services contract. We will not be utilizing that contract this year
Okay,
as per our budgetary discussion on Monday.
okay,
Okay, I can move to approve with the change of removing number 10.
motion to approve the agenda by Fred.
Hi, Margie.
Second, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Say hi.
Aye.
I'll just,
Okay, that's good.
Okay. And then I need to, do you guys all have the materials? I will share them. It's gonna take me a minute to do so.
Okay, next, I need a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting, March 12th, 2025.
So moved.
Moved by Fred. Second by Paul. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right, and now I will close those minutes.
Okay,
All right. Next thing oh, go ahead. Sorry, jumping ahead.
next we have the financial reports and bars, Josiah.
And Josiah, okay, Josiah, you can show your screen now. Josiah, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I was on the way there, but I got stuck in traffic and I'm not gonna be able to make it, so that's why I was wondering if Mike could take the lead on this, if he could, please.
Yeah, actually was going to anyways because it was prior week when we filed the report. So we did meet as a finance committee on Monday, so we went over the reports in detail, so still over some,
Share the reports.
I'm not online.
Here's Anthony. Okay, give me a minute and I will pull up the reports.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, Mike, there's our reports.
So concerning revenues, not a lot has changed operationally. You're still receiving our SCG as expected on a monthly basis. One thing to note, for the record, these reports are reconciled through March 31st, 2025, so that does mark the end of the third quarter. We did have some discussion and actually some back and forth with Ileana concerning food service and how revenues and expenditures are sort of going together, and see if we have to actually do some budget adjustments to see if the operational fund needs to cover any portion of the food service program. I don't remember in detail, what is our revenues being exceeded by the expenditures for the programs?
We're operating in the red.
So we'll have to look at that,
Yeah.
probably the next meeting, so the month of May, covering April reports, we'll have an analysis of what we think the operational fund will have to supplement food service. And just keep in mind that even though they have universal free meals, we're still reimbursed for what students take. So if you don't have that exact, you're not gonna get 100% reimbursed. Also, if you have any sort of labor costs or anything of that nature, it's not reimbursed by the state or the feds, so food service can sometimes be supplemented by the operational fund. So we just want to make sure that we try to get ordering as close as possible, but you know, it's as hard as that could be, especially as you hopefully grow bigger. Your title funds, we actually discussed those quite a bit. We're kind of seeing how it's going to look at next year mostly, but we are spending down pretty much the same as we had in the previous iteration of this report from last month. One thing we are looking at is the CSI grant, and it was noted that we hadn't quite spent all of it. May not have been in alignment, but we just have to make a minor adjustment to get that. It's not going to be a budget-based one, but rather one that's on the system. So that's noted before we do our reimbursement request for this month. And we do reimbursement requests once a month, usually around mid-month. So that'll happen sometime next week. There was some memo that went out for ESSER funds indicating that the current federal administration dialed back our extension on ESSER funds from March of 2026 to March 2025. So effectively swept any unused ESSER funds. Fortunately, New America spent all of ours, so we will not be involved with that sweep.
Good job.
Always been the federal funds first.
And then we finally got our kitchen infrastructure grant approved as a notice of obligation. So Patricia bought some pans and some
Not pans.
those milk coolers, something of that nature.
Yeah, we had originally put in things like trays and pans,
Yeah.
but those are supplies and we had to buy equipment.
Sure.
So we got an ice machine, we got a salad bar and a mixer. We got those things.
So some bigger ticket items. It does exceed the 7,000 by a few $100, but that's easily sustainable to have paid for with SB9 funds. Lease reimbursement kind of is what it is, so not a lot to report there. Same with special capital outlay, and then on your HB 33 and SB9 funds, you can see that there is. Yeah, we're totaling, around. On the revenue side itself, it's tracking essentially as we expect. So you do get two big disbursements, one generally in the winter time and one in summertime. So we'll recoup the rest of that revenue as that approaches. And on the expenditures, I do have one maintenance part to go to the operational fund, because all your functions are really, really clean at this point. There's a handful of line items that are slightly over, but nothing to really have to take action on right now, except for your function 2600, which is on page 4 of the reports. And you can see on that page there that contract services for the operation and maintenance of the plant are sending us over by about 46,000. And so the maintenance bar that you will do have on the agenda tonight, we'll be able to hedge against that as we do our third quarter reporting. So our third quarter reports to judge compliance by the PED will be due at the end of this month. So this will be a good time to get that bar in. We had talked about food service already on the next page, so not really much else on the expenditure side. Just noting again that we do have a perceived deficit for the year with revenues being exceeded by expenditures. The second bar you have is related on page 5 for idea B. You can see idea B has one function that's showing with availability, the other function showing as a deficit. So overall, the fund itself is positive, but we have to have a transfer bar to make sure we have budget in the correct place so we can request reimbursement and close out that fund appropriately. I think that's all as far as expenditures. That we had as far as high notes. And down towards page 7 is your check register, so your deposits and withdrawals for the month, so we did note
Mike,
that there, sorry.
I'm sorry, just real quick, sidebar here, admin sidebar. When we look at food services, just because we were talking about the reimbursements coming in, Ileana needs to give a quick update so the GC is aware of just a slight little snafu.
So when I get food service numbers from our vendor each month, and when I implement the reimbursements, when I did February in the beginning of March, I just made a mistake on my line, and I was looking in the wrong line and I entered in the wrong number. So I put in a reimbursement number for a count that was less than what it was. So I've already reached out to the Student Success and Wellness Bureau, and we have a meeting set up to adjust that claim. But once the claim has already been submitted and processed, you have a 60-day window to make any adjustments, but there's a whole process to go through with them. So we do have an appointment set up. Because I reached out right away as soon as I realized it was the wrong line that I went through. And they'll have me do a corrective action plan, which just is, well, I don't know, we'll just talk about it, go over exactly what happened, and I just didn't have things lined up.
I won't do it again, I promise.
I won't do it again, I promise, and we'll go over there. But they make the adjustment to a current month so that you don't have to go back. It's an interesting process, which I'll learn more about in May. But yes, I did put in February and it was under what we should have been reimbursed, so that will be adjusted.
So Mike, you might see those on the food service reimbursements. If something comes through in May and it's odd, that's what happened.
Gotcha. You like to incentivize not doing that, huh?
Yes.
They really do, yes.
It's usually one of those things that I go over neurotically, but my screen was shifted down just enough that the very bottom line was cut off and I just,
Don't,
human error.
it's a lot of numbers.
Yes.
So I zipped along to page 7.
Yep.
And so again, this for the month of March, your ins and outs essentially. And bottom line, we do have an excess of withdrawals over deposits, about 30, almost 40,000. So we want to see this more even at this time of year, but the school is sitting on still plenty of cash, so it's not too much of a concern. And I didn't really know anything that was kind of out of the ordinary as far as large disbursements that would sort of trigger this. Just might just been a more expensive month for one reason or the other, but nothing in specific to figure out.
The question real quick on the caps and gowns, I see 35, 35, 40 and 70. Is that individuals?
Yes, students purchase their caps and gowns, and each student gets an individual receipt. This one has a cap and gown with a tassel, so if they wanted an extra tassel, they got the 40. This is just because it's a deposit. It was 2 sets of cap and gown for the 70.
Okay. Figured that would.
Yeah.
I do see one individual on there, Daniel Lissa, $59, probably a background check. I just,
It is.
that's how much that costs. I think you can always tell. So all in all, it's doing pretty good. The outstanding POs report is provided as sort of an information item. If you do have any questions on specifics, I know that one of us 3 on this side of the table can answer that. But generally, give this to you as an idea of what we have open, who we're doing business with, and what's up to pay and all that. So about 400 left in remaining payments for the remainder of the year. And I'm sure we'll have a handful of POs come out over the next couple of months as well.
Yeah, but just a handful, we stopped doing those into April.
Yeah, you generally could have a cutoff. We like to be able to close the books and then, start a new year fresh.
Yeah.
Do have a purchasing totals by vendor report. As you can see, ACES is rolled up, so you do utilize ACES for a number of areas. So anything above that ACES line, those individuals aren't subject to procurement because ACES has done that process for you. And then the ones below, are sort of the ones that are hitting sort of thresholds. But as you can see, like Clear Clean, we have a PO open for nearly 60, but only 16 has been actualized. So you still aren't hitting any sort of procurement issues at this point. And a lot of these, like Moss Adams, your risk premium, those and utilities, those are exempt under procurement. You have to pay for your electricity. We only have P&M as an option, so you're always gonna have issues with procurement with that unless there's an exception.
And like that Fairly Clean can be,
I'm sorry?
ooh, I believe that Fairly Clean can be closed.
Okay.
But Anna's gonna start working with you to start closing things. We're getting close enough now that we'll know on these where we're at.
Then starting with your bank recon, so again, we are reconciled to the penny, so another month where we have no differences. Your outstanding items, all were at the end of March, so there's nothing that's lingering out there. We got the token vendors or employees to cash their checks, which is nice. Only about 21,000 outstanding. And then the bank recon as a whole, started the month with about 3.25 million. Activity brought that down to about 3.17, and we had those outstanding checks that were aforementioned. So our adjusted bank balance, which again matches to the GL, to the penny is at 3.15 million. And then 774,000 of that being unrestricted, the rest sitting in your wonderful capital funds that we're hoping to spend down with the hopeful approval of an LPA by not only this council, but the state and PSFA.
Right?
Yep.
Everybody. I have PSFA's blessings, we're just the state.
And the balance sheet itself, again, kind of shows you fund by fund where your cash is at. That top line labeled bank account is where you're kind of looking, and then that first column that has any dollar figures, the 823,000 is your operational fund. That's where you generally want a bulk of your cash to lie. But on the second page of this, you can see that there's about 2.3 million between the last two columns, which are HB 33 and FNAT, again, those capital funds. For the last page of your balance sheet, that 3.15 million in total cash is where we tie out, so we know that your bank statement matches and we're not missing not even a single penny.
These.
This tiny looking document, 0018-T, again, it was mentioned before, it's a transfer bar for idea B. Again, we're just realigning where we're actually expending funds, and it's moving down from a special ed teacher position down to coordinator position for special education in specific. No addition of funds, no reduction of funds, but just adjustment of the budget.
And here's our other.
The other one, 0020-M, the M standing for maintenance. Again, we had talked about this with the expenditure report. The one function you had that was sitting out of compliance as we round out the quarter is function 2600. The bulk of it being that was contract services, but what we put it into was a couple of different areas, which just made more sense to secure. Just maybe that contract service isn't going to be what we use, especially if we close that Clearly Clean, which is likely coming out of that line. So we did reduce out the principal line, which was paid for, I think, elsewhere. I think it could have been final bit of the ESSER funds. Can't remember exactly, but we do have availability. And then moving into the area, it does say crosswalk / security guys, but it's really the security part of that it's covering. And then the other portion for your rent. So just a little bit more to cover the portion that police assistance will not.
Right, and actually, we don't have a security person. It falls under truancy intervention in the student functions. So that can close. It's not a person.
Gotcha. But this will bring it into compliance, once the bar is approved.
Thank you, and can I get a motion to approve the financials and the two bars?
Motion to approve financial and the 2 bars.
Moved by Fred, second by Anthony. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye, thank you. Oh, passes. Next, we have the discussion and action on William Scotsman's lease extension.
Which is right here.
Yeah.
This is the extension we must do every day, every year around this time. Notifying Will Scott that we do intend to keep their modulars for another year, extending our lease. We had a lease extension in which we could option for, I believe it was 15 years. We are looking at year 7 at this point. But every year, so long as we sign this, they
I know.
can't increase anything. And our contract with them says this has to be done no less than 60 days prior to the end of our contract. So here it is again. It is the exact same one we always have. The modulars haven't changed. Personnel hasn't changed. Only the year has changed. Any questions?
Is the date okay?
April 14th. It's fine. That's when I was planning on sending.
No, nothing's changed but the date.
Just the date, year over year.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the lease extension?
So moved.
Moved by Fred,
Second.
second by Anthony. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. It's passed. Next, we have discussion and action on the 25-26 calendar.
I don't have to know. But I didn't have to email. I opened the files, my files. Let me go open my email. Give me just a moment here, guys. You do need to sign this. Thank you. I opened the GC files off of where I have them stored on the computer.
So
I'm sorry, what's that?
also online.
On my Google?
No, on social.
Oh, on Thrillshare. Okay. Yeah, there you have it. And you sent things out yesterday, Ellie? Back. All attachments. This is the last one I'm pulling up there.
We've got budget first.
Yeah, I just wanna open this so it's open. All right. Not what I want right now. Gotta find where our budget is stashed. Oh, it was actually here. Okay, the budget.
Do you want me to go back over all of it again? Do you want to touch on the things that you guys talked about in finance?
Yeah. We're getting there. So, we've worked on this budget a lot and had to do it quickly. We are the second entity responsible for having our budget into the PED, by the 14th. There's only one charter school that has to go before us. And then it's us. It's a very short timeline. And then of course, the APS wants it as well, more at the end of the month, but it needs to be approved by the GC, so this was always the day it has to come in. Mike, if you want to kind of go over, the projected revenues and how we got to those revenues.
All right, sure. So on the FY 25 estimated side, it really is looking at what we're estimating for the current year. The SCG carryover of I think it's 880. That's an actual audited figure, so we know that. Thank you very much. It's an audited figure. We know that as fact. The operational SCG is estimated. We actually got the final SCG just I think either last night or the night before, and I can actually look to see how close we were on this estimate. Sarah, but essentially you did have a reduction based on not meeting growth projections initially. One second to do some math. So just to let you know, we did break out the SCG and at-risk and K-12 plus figures to help with kind of understanding the different areas, but the SCG, at-risk and K-12 plus, when we actually get the numbers, is one funding source in reality.
So next year, when you look at revenue, it'll just say operational seg. It won't be broken out to those chunks.
So this is down to about within 7 cents of what we estimated. That's crazy.
I know. Did a good job.
So
That's 7 cents.
yeah, it's well, yeah, you're at 10 cents lower, or sorry, 7 cents lower than what we have up there. But so that says we had a pretty good idea of what we were going to be at based on the amounts, but the rounding was the difference. So when we go to FY 25 or FY 26, so looking at next year, it's a real simple calculation to project the carryover, and it's just your estimated revenues and carryover less your estimated expenditures for this year. So again, we've only been through 3/4 of the year, so we do take a look at what you've actually spent, and then we add in the encumbrances or the intent for expenditures for the remainder of the year. So that FY 25 estimated expenditure side is going to be where we always have a good guess, but it's always going to be adjusted as we get our audit out. And we do know that we're going to be closing out POs, but because our budget is due so early, we haven't even gone through that process yet. So the projected amount going into FY 26 of 395,140 is going to be a conservative one. I think that's the bottom that we would see. That's if we pay every single PO out 100% and nothing else changes. In reality, that's not going to happen. We're going to have some savings and we'll add to the budget. We do that every single year. It's a conservative way of budgeting. What we did as far as the SCG, we did have a reduction on the SCG itself, but when you break out between the at-risk and the K-12 plus, which I think Patricia can and Ileana can explain why K-12 might be going down. Overall, it's going to be, I think, a slight potential increase if I'm remembering the math correctly. But we don't have solid figures yet. We still have to go through what's looking like a nightmare of a calendar. Well, it's on an Excel. It was on an Excel spreadsheet that I don't know if you've seen the Excel spreadsheet, but and I don't know if you're gonna have different iterations based on when seniors graduate and stuff like that. But we'll have to see how it kicks out. And they also indicated that they're not 100% certain it's gonna work on the online system. So it's the first time they're doing this calendar online. And so we'll see how that shakes out.
It goes live tomorrow. But it looked pretty easy. Actually, I'm pretty confident about calendar this year.
So what we were guessing would be is actually a slight reduction, I guess, over the current year. We're trying to base it on they initially had said SCG or the state utilization guarantee statewide was going to be about 8% increase. The unit value they released today was 5.57%. So I'm not sure if they're being super conservative or if they're thinking a lot of people are going to be chasing those K-12 dollars again. That's going to essentially reduce the amount of units based on estimated statewide revenues.
Right. Well, they said SEG would go up 8%. And that might be an average because our at-risk is going to go up, but other people's at-risk is going to go down. And, our at-risk is going to increase year over because prior to this year, we were funded, based on Albuquerque Public Schools at-risk rate, which meant LaQueva, sorry, flashing back to Rio Rancho there. But LaQueva and all, the Northeast Heights went into it as well. Our at-risk population is much higher than APS's average at-risk population. This year, legislation was passed that says we will be able to use our own at-risk funding calculation. So you can see that we're really going to get an increase there.
That's state money.
That's state money. That's state money. And then the K-12 plus, of course, when you go to do the calendar, it's a little tricky. Statute says 1,140 hours. If you want K-12 plus money, it isn't hours, it's anything over 153 days. If you're a charter, if you're a 4-day-a-week charter. So having to balance the two, we could have, longer days, but then we don't get K-12 plus money, even though we meet the hours. So it very much is, a chasing of hours and a strange calculation. I'm gonna let Ileana kind of go over why, the K-12 plus is going to drop. As it is a conversation we have had heading into next year.
So we had a total of 20 additional days that we put into the calendar last year. And that we were able to do that because they allowed us to use the Fridays as some of those extra K-12 plus days. This year, they have come back and said, no, if you are a 4-day school, you are a 4-day week. You cannot add days on Fridays to meet the K-12 plus days. So we have, and we'll talk a little bit more when we look at calendar, but we have had to go back to solidly staying at only 4 days a week, which takes a lot of the things like all of the federal holidays and things like that away and having to replace those in order to just meet our minimum days. And then adding 20 additional was just a lot. It was going to take us beginning in the middle of July and ending in the middle of June. So we went with knowing that the at-risk funding was coming through at a large amount, feeling like we had some room to breathe a little bit there. And we went with 10 extra days for K-12 plus instead of the 20.
To be clear, that is 10 extra instructional days. It is not the intention that teacher contracts will be reduced.
Right.
And that is because.
Well, we're still working on what the teacher contracts look like, but we did talk about the fact, and we're looking at a couple different things. But we've talked about the fact that our teachers work longer days right now. So they work less days than the majority of the schools in the state. So we're still looking at whether we're going to add days to teacher contracts and then also having to do with the adjustments to our salary schedule.
Are you speaking hours or days?
Days.
We look at days,
Right.
but by taking the 20 K-12 plus and knocking it down to 10, that enables the school to have at least 10 days for professional development and meetings and professional work with teachers. That doesn't exist right now.
Right. So those days that are already part of the teacher contract without coming down would allow us to meet at least once a month on Fridays. And we're looking at now still kind of looking at whether we can do twice a month on Fridays so that we can have things like full teams together to look at health and wellness issues. If we need to talk about the health and wellness of a particular student, right now we have a team that meets in the morning. And then it's reliant on that team to then communicate with all the teachers. But if we can have everybody there on Friday, then everybody who has that student gets the same information and gets to put in the information. So if we're looking at health and wellness or attendance or academics, we can all have those conversations together along with regular professional development, along with time for collaboration, planning, things like that.
So essentially, it is cutting back 10 academic days to allow for more time with staff, which is very much necessary and needed. I will say that 8% increase overall in SEG is really nice. There are a few things that came through legislation that will be hitting the budget, and we'll kind of, as we go through, we'll talk about them. Some things great, those are great. Some things not so great. It is what it is every time. And knowing that the governor has not yet signed everything. Okay, so this brings us to our expenditures. And of course, when you're looking at money, you always want your budget to be in the student functions as much as possible. Certainly PED wants that, and APS wants that. So you've got to look at, and understandably enough, our finances should be going for students. They're generated by students, they should go to the students. But there's the reality of we've got to pay the light bill, and you've got to have other personnel who aren't directly working with students. So starting on this, you can see that there is an increase in teachers. When I did we had discussions, and we discussed it last month at the GC meeting, of increasing the salary schedule over APS. And at the time I said 10,000 would be fantastic, but it's not sustainable. We went middle of the road on that and increased our salary schedule 5,000 over. But with the $5,000 increase that PED has mandated for basic levels of teachers, some of them are essentially getting a $10,000 raise. But at the end of the day, it makes our salaries 5,000 more than APS. So it gives the NAS a little bit of breathing room on competitiveness. There was a time when we paid more, but it's kind of equaled in the last few years. And when you do it at an hourly rate, they make a little bit less than APS. And believe me, they take it down to an hourly rate. So we needed to increase that so that the school has hopefully more and better qualified applicants in the future. It's been a real slog to get new teaching staff in, and looking towards the future, you really want the school to have the best possible option to do that. We are currently at 7 teachers and 2 SPED teachers. And of course, as you know, with 125 students, typically it's 25-1, which is 5. But I'm going to let Ileana discuss why we're at that, because it is tied closely to our program.
Sure. So we talked a little bit about that last month also. We did, we currently have the 2 language arts programs. One of that is because we are so heavy on our English language learners. So we do need a language arts teacher who is an ELD teacher as well, an English language development teacher. So that gives us a teacher that teaches the English classes as well as the English language classes. The social studies teachers we have now are having 2 of those is allowing us to get in some really cool electives that the kids are really enjoying. If we had been down to 1 teacher that in that content area, we wouldn't have the room for the elective classes that the kids are really looking forward to coming and getting a chance to do a lot of art and expressing just kind of the fun things that they have happening in those classes. We did take, we have always had 2 science positions, and we did take that down to 1. Felt that was appropriate, as they only need 3 science credits, and we're able to make that happen with the 1 teacher right now. We did hold space for 2 math teachers, and while we weren't able to fill the 2nd math teacher full-time this year, it's a position I believe we really need, as our math scores have continued to be our lowest academic area. So needing to have the two math teachers. That accounts for the 7. The 2 special ed teachers are based on FTE, with the fact that we do have nearly a third, or we fluctuate just over a third, just under a third of our population being served through an IEP. Students served through an IEP each carry a different weight dependent on how much service time they receive. And based on the service time that our students have and the needs that they have, we have FTE for 2 special education teachers. That's
easily.
Yes.
And if you wanna go ahead and just go into the sped EA there.
We did put the budget in there for a special education EA this year. We have not had luck finding a special education teacher, a second special education teacher. That has stayed with us. So we wanted to make sure that there was room in the budget where we could bring in an EA if that was what we were able to find.
Most of this hasn't changed over last month. The primary changes were the increase in teacher salary. So you're gonna see that reflected. I think that was the only thing we really changed on Monday, right, Mike, was salary? We just really changed
We had some-
salary,
We had some minor adjustments with the GMP stuff, but now it seems like it's not gonna be going.
right?
Prior to that, you and I had made some changes with the student success position that we had put in.
Yeah, if you wanna.
Yeah, we had talked about needing to, last month I had talked about needing to build some support positions in. And so
Yes.
we kind of looked at where could we, bring our budget a little bit more into alignment. So we had that student success support position. And we've actually moved that into be a stipend for an additional comp for a teacher who would like to, possibly take that role on above and beyond the teaching role. And so we were able to eliminate a full position there by bringing that into a stipend. And then the same thing with the CTE position, we had originally budgeted a CTE person. But after conversations with some of the people who are doing that work right now, felt that that could be rolled into the line, with the guidance counselor. And that would be a requirement of that position, was that the guidance counselor would need to have or understand, the workings of a CTE program.
And if
We were able to cut back a little there.
And of course, with any stipend where you're gonna have like that, it's outside of their regular hours. They cannot double dip, and they know that. Ileana knows that. And so, being a 4-day week, it's nice to have the luxury of the Fridays for some wiggle room. Nobody likes working till 10 o'clock at night, apparently. I don't know. So Ileana, if you see anything else that we have changed or might. Or anything, if anyone has any question about anything that has changed over time, I will reiterate that what I said last month, that I did tell Ileana that if there's a position that is foundational to the school that is currently out of grant, we must move it into SEG. If we're gonna say it's a foundational position, it's not something that should be subject to the whims of the current administration, because we're not sure what federal funds are coming down. I do believe they'll come down. We just don't know what it's gonna look like or
The
anything like
the
that.
JMP Special Ed Services, that was. What was that exactly again? Was that taken down from, was that the one that we took down from like 60 or?
Yes, this one needs to be taken down because we did take it down. Ileana had finally gotten a scope of work and a thank you, estimate, a quote from JMP. And it was a little over 8,000 for June to wrap everything up with Nova. But in conversation with Anna said she had already planned on doing everything on that. And then it was like 55 and change for the coming year, which is essentially a position.
Yep.
And in our conversation on Monday, we looked at positions, we looked at the scope of work they gave us, and it looks like we have the positions to do those things. We did lose, so rather than budgeting the 56,000 for JMP, we did leave in it further down 5,000 for training, assistance, anything like that, hourly work. Rather than just saying we have a contract for 56,000 for these items. So there's some wiggle room there.
Okay.
Moving forward.
And the Scala one?
Ileana, did you hear?
Oh, that is good.
Okay.
We had set up a meeting to revisit. Originally, when I spoke with them, they gave me a quote of $60,000.
Can you let them know what they do?
Yeah, SCOLA is essentially is essentially recruitment and advertising. They do outreach. If you provide them with leads, they do outreach to and connect with every single lead that you provide. They also do advertising through social media and promoting of the school. They also do regular meetings with school staff to train in recruitment, to work on data versus of who they've contacted and what the people are saying. They also do outreach to the current students and work with those families to figure out why they're here, what makes them stay, if they're thinking about leaving, why, and what we can do, and all of that. But it was a very large scale project. And their initial quote came back at $60,000, which was not something that we.
We decided.
Good budget.
Right.
Right, and to have a contract like that, and it is important for advertising, and we do need the advertising, recruitment is too big of a monster for Ileana to take on by herself. However, at 60,000, you have to cut a position. Right. And when you cut a position, and the same is true with JMP, we could have cut a support position up top. But again, that's gonna skew our numbers away from student support.
Yeah,
And we really need to front load our numbers in the student support. And it's the same with Scola. We could have cut a position from up top to keep Scola, but now we're skewing where the money's going again.
Do we have any idea what the kind of return on investment is?
So that's one of the things I've talked to one school already who said it was the thing that made it for them, that really just completely turned them around in terms of their recruitment status. But that's only one school. So I've reached out to 2 other schools. I haven't heard back yet. I think everybody's kind of in the same boat where we're at right now, where that is not the most important thing to them. So I haven't heard back, but I'm gonna continue pushing.
Yeah.
And I am
What
gonna
was
meet with
the
them one
one
more
school?
time. Get out of the
And what was how many students did they get?
I didn't ask her for specific student numbers. I can. But she just said, because we were talking about this is the difficulty we've had, and Vero was like, when we were struggling with this, she's like, Skola is who we did. Let me introduce you to this person at one of the conferences. And she's like, this was what turned it around for us. And so she just really kind of spoke very highly of them. I did touch base back with her and told her they quoted me $60,000, and she said she doesn't pay them anywhere near that. So I do intend to reach back out to him. We just have been missing each other, and then I was out some last week. So
So
I
we-
think we'll still lower that number
be good to know
and be able to
exactly
use
what they
something for them.
provided for them.
Yeah, what the
Right.
comparables are.
Yep.
You know, what we can.
And
I
that
think
makes
it would
expect-
be, I think it'd be best to leave the number.
Oh, yeah.
And not mess with it. If you need, I do think it's important. I do think it's critical.
Yeah.
I don't think 60,000 is doable. I think 30,000 is pretty reasonable. If student numbers increase, and maybe that's it, you
Right.
tell them, show me the numbers. If they can get 20 students in, then you can talk 60,000. But I think it's a great start, and I do think it's necessary for the school.
Yes.
And there's other agencies out there besides Scola.
I know that they're just the ones that I've seen at the conference.
They're the ones at the conference.
And they're the ones that I see when I scroll Facebook.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones when I see charter school ads pop up, it's always Shola. And so there's a number of
There's a
schools that
lot
do
of
use
TV
them.
ads for charter schools I've noticed.
Are there?
Becco's,
Mm-hmm.
then a fight school one even.
Mhm.
Nice.
I, just gonna inject something that kind of came across my desk. So Monica Armenta, she was a former newscaster with the
Yeah.
EPS. She's now with the New Mexico Broadcasters Association, the director there. She contacted me. They have a public education program, something of that nature. But essentially for schools that cannot afford advertising, they'll provide for free advertising. I don't know, I'm not sure what
That's great.
not sure what it entails, but I'm having lunch with her on the 22nd.
I remember her from.
Do you have to prove that you can't,
I will prove it. I can-
Prove anything.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know she had moved on.
And she was on TV forever, that she was.
She was like a very well-known face. We did increase,
Right.
We increase this administrative support position because this position is going to have to do a lot, take on a lot of tasks, which, so when you say Nova, it's a big task for about 4 weeks a year. But also I am training this person to do the HR, the paperwork, the background checks, things like that in addition. And really that is Ileana's administrative support person.
How's it working out?
Really well, actually. I mean, he's in Italy right now, but
Poor guy.
I know he has to come back to work Monday. He sends me pictures. Like, why don't we talk about it? But great. Enough that we're willing to discuss extending the position and looking at a reasonable compensation. Anything else in here? We do decrease fingerprints. No, yeah, a whole bunch. We did that. We did talk about, because we have a policy for fingerprints every 5 years. And we need to look at how many others are coming up. This is where we put the JMP training support into there. So that dropped a little bit. Southwest Copy Systems, we currently have 2 giant copiers.
That's one of them there, I bet.
That's
Yes.
one of them. And that one actually is on a lease that expires in August.
So you can just give it up,
I told Ileana it's her call.
Yeah.
I mean,
but sitting there, do you use it? I
the
mean,
teachers,
use it.
okay,
teachers use it.
all right, but can the other one handle the teachers and everything else?
It can.
As long as it can, then I
How
mean,
much we came for?
How much do we pay? How much do we pay the lodge?
Which arm?
It's the, and it's always complicated because the one up front we own.
yeah,
This one we lease.
yeah,
We pay Southwest Copies to maintain them both. But on this one, we also have to pay Delage. So it's always confusing. We're paying Southwest Copies for the copier, but we're paying Delage for the copier. This one takes twice as much. So Mike, do you see how much that is?
How'd you get that?
It is one word.
In the
Built
building?
it really.
Did you have to like bring it in and then build the building around it?
It's
Pieces.
giant, isn't it? And we've moved it a couple of
Yeah,
times.
we moved it this year. It was not in here earlier.
It was not. It was not. And I will say, so for the first, for the fall semester, that was actually not utilized at all. And everyone survived. So they have copiers in the room. They have printers in the room. We have the large one if they need it. So
Are they wireless printers they have in the rooms or are they?
they are. Mhm. So we had the conversation, the lease on this, look at also the cost of the ink
the
for the
maintenance on it.
multiple ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of, you're gonna have to do an analysis on it. Leon, we'll have to do an analysis on it.
Classrooms?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, and they're only supposed to use this for a page here or a page there, not 60
Right.
pages,
Right,
because that does get expensive with ink. Toner here,
Toner.
ink there. Toner's really expensive. Okay. And the rest of it is. Let me know if you see anything else. Of course, there's the rental, the LPA. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Custodial, we have this, did you ever get a quote from them for 0.5?
No, he sent me we love that you're our customer and we're just great. Next year's gonna be perfect and we're gonna give you a 3% increase and that's that. And I sent back, no, I said I wanted to have a conversation because we need to talk about something.
That's not what we said. But whether they want to or not, that's what we're gonna,
Right.
we only have a finite amount of money, so.
But I did meet with the second company also. We did a conversation and I'm waiting on their quote also.
So we'll see where that comes in. So at the end of that, looking at the variance, at the end of next year, the school will have a little bit less than $200,000 carryover. If everything there is expended as it should, if the school gets as many teachers, and of course, it might go up from that. But again, if something happens and we suddenly need 60,000 in legal, it will go down. The number makes me nervous. It doesn't make Mike nervous, and it just makes me nervous because 15 years of conservative financials.
Still conservative though, I mean, it's just that.
It's
the
still
money is not-
conservative.
It's not there to like. pile
Well,
up, so.
And at the end of the day, we get money to meet the needs of students. We should not be having these large amounts, and we're going to need to show that we're spending it. And I think that's going to be really critical heading into renewal. We shouldn't have a large bank account. Now, some
What-
charters,
Sorry,
Susan?
what percentage does that represent of your total budget?
It was around 3.
3%.
Okay, yeah, I mean, were you there yesterday when the lobbyist was basically saying, listen, spend or encumber your
was.
carryover or as much of it as you can, because they basically were saying count on a clawback next year.
Yeah, I was. And also you do need to meet student needs. The fact is student count has gone down and we do need to be spent. Now, I'm not saying that that is sustainable over time. It is not sustainable in the long run, but hopefully, student count will increase and it'll be fine. But that's okay. And I do know we're not the only charter that has a bank account, but because charters hold money for facilities, for other large expenditures. But I do think that this is reasonable. And that is the budget. Salary schedule, I don't have that in here, do I? Mike, did you sent me the salary schedule? I used it the other day, right?
Someone,
Yes, I did. Hold on just a moment and I'll,
we haven't, I
do
mean,
you have it in here?
It's salary analysis.
oh, yeah.
No,
salary
schedule.
analysis.
Is this what you wanted to go over or
That is not what I wanna go over.
this is what was in the?
Yeah, no, that's not it, but if you guys wanna talk about that real quick, Ileana, if you can just basically say what it is. And I am going to pull up the actual, we have to approve the salary schedule tonight. So let me find that.
So this is just a current analysis of the salaries that are on campus and the open positions. You can see as we talked about the 2 social studies positions, the math positions, this total is what transfers over to the line items on the budget.
This is what we're paying today to the teachers.
Not today, this is the projected.
Okay.
For next year, based on calculations of this year at either the 4% or the salary band
4% plus 5 from us.
or the 5. So you'll see like there's the second line there is a teacher who's moving to a level 2. So the 4% wouldn't have been, what would have been better would be the 65,000. So this is calculated per employee based on their current salary at either the 4% or at the next band up, whichever one was higher.
There were 3 things playing into, this is that terrible. 3 things playing into it. There was a 4% increase for current employees. There was an increase of $5,000 for starting salaries from teachers to $55,000, $65,000, and $75,000. So when you look at that increase to a mandatory level, quite a few of our teachers already went up because the 4% was less than the new salary band. So that brought them to the next salary band. So if they made 63, It brought them to 65. And then we put 5,000 on top of that, bringing them to 70.
And this just goes through all the positions that we have in the budget. So we've got teachers, we've got special education, truancy. The stipends. Graduation specialist, guidance counselor, social work.
Balance.
So those are all the positions that we discussed on the front page. And this is actually a second tab on the budget, so it calculates. Into the line item.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. I have to think. Take a look at it. It's not automatically pulling it up. Give me a minute and I'll go find it. If you guys want to take a brief pause, get something to drink, I'll be right back. So I get the salary.
Still live and recorded.
He was a APD and he used to be Marty Chavis's personal bodyguard. So he's walk around in a suit, drive around with black suburban and go to all these special events. And
But what's
he
a good,
bought- he
what's a
bought-
good reason he hates him?
We're
We're
still,
recording.
we're still live and recording.
Never mind.
Validation.
You guys that are not say, you know,
There's a lot of people that put their name in the hat, right? The mayor.
Yeah, there's like 6 hours, 7.
God, they used to
Darren
be,
White,
used to be,
Valdez,
fire
Fireman.
chief or fire, yeah. Eddie Varela.
Yeah. But I know, he bought my book of business for Allstate.
Oh.
That was no financial interest. I'll probably have a meeting.
See you at the rallies.
Huh?
See you at the rallies.
Yeah. I'll probably have a little meeting for him. Yeah, learning.
Make it interesting.
He files a complaint about me now. Cause it's camera. Supposed to.
Okay. I've dropped it into the appropriate file.
It's
It's the drop down. There. It's not.
Yeah, that's squiggle.
Fine, that squiggle. It doesn't look like you're refreshed, does it? And it isn't refreshing.
I guess
just gets a cracker. It's a cookie.
Not too sweet, that's why.
Refresh.
Butter's not too sweet.
Like
Kit Kat.
I just dropped it in there. Sources of beans. Oh,
I don't really eat sweets. Arthur eats a lot of sweets. So I buy little boxes of Oreos with the icing on them and I go to get one. There's one that little thing is for some.
it is not moving over to it. Do you see it in there?
This, I don't. So,
Mhm.
caffeine in this.
Oh, but
Yeah, that's what I need.
Yeah, I literally just dropped it in here.
my beef with Triscuits though is that there's like 80 calories.
They're very
in one.
dry.
Is there really?
Yeah, very dry.
I never really.
They're so
That
good.
is even.
There's like 80 calories in one cracker.
Wow.
Same.
Blue with cream.
It's only this big. They're just this big.
It's ridiculous.
They're that big.
No, they're like that big. Like that.
Yeah.
What?
That's
There's-
a-
look
that's
look on the box.
That's an architectural.
I had just eaten a whole box of them. It's like, what,
You're like,
what damage have I done? Then I looked at it, I was like, oh my God.
Go run.
No, I,
Take the rest of it.
Slipped it off.
I like Tristan.
No, I got the crumbs in the bag and I.
Get them all.
The under the sources and uses.
Like pineapple cream cheese.
Third one up from the bottom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a PDF, and it should be, that's where it's looking like it is up there.
A little bit, not as much as I wish I could.
Open.
That's weird little accidents, I think still there.
And then April. There. Just had to back all the way out of it. All right. There we go. Sources. Okay,
What page are we in now?
this is the salary schedule, this one.
Oh, okay, I don't want to say it anyway.
Every year as part of the budget, the governing council has to approve the salary schedule for all certified people at New America School.
Is it, where do we have this blackout?
It doesn't count, you don't
It's top
have
secret
those.
redacted.
No, it's like, if you're a level 1 and you don't move up to level 2 within 5 years, you don't have a license, not possible. That's why it's blacked out. Likewise, if you're a level where am I? A level 2, well, those first 3 years you can't be a level 2. You've got to start as a level 1. So it's blacked out.
It's okay, then.
Yeah,
That's enough explanation.
okay.
I get it.
All right.
You know,
Fine. And of course, on the left, you see experience up to 30 years. We do pay experience at the actual year. So if someone comes in with 25 years, we give them 25 years. I will tell you that is very unusual. Most districts give 10 years or 15. I have always felt that if someone has worked for 27 years, they deserve 27 years of experience.
What's the plus 15, the BA plus 15?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Anthony. So if you have a bachelor's degree for your teaching license, then you have your bachelor's degree and you go start working on another license. Or you go back to school you're working on your master's degree in administration. As you move up, now you've got a bachelor's plus 15 hours. Level 1, level 2, level 3.
15 hours?
15 credit hours of college. And then you have a bachelor's plus 45 college hours, or by that time you might actually have your master's. And so as you increase, you have a master's, you go back to school, say you're working on your doctorate, you have another 15 credit hours. It's all of them increase a little bit. And then of course, if you have a master's plus 45 and or a doctorate, that is the top of the salary schedule for certified staff. You will.
15 is or 45 is credit college hours completed.
Yes, above your degree. Above your degree. And of course, it's just a function of it year over year. It doesn't increase a lot. How much does it increase there?
Professional students.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot over time. Really, it's as you move across in your degrees.
Yeah.
That's where it really increases. And this was set up basically as part of what was the T&E index, training plus experience, to figure out how to pay teachers. And originally there was just one. And then about, I don't know, like 18 years ago, it's when I was getting my admin degree, the state implemented the level 1, level 2, and level 3 licenses. And of course you have to move from level 1 to level 2. You can stay at level 2 for the rest of your career, or you can move to level 3. But to move to level 3, you've got to have, now you've got to have a master's, you have to complete work. I'll say it's more that you have to do.
Do a
So
lot of
that's-
teachers continue their education while they're teaching?
I don't know that I'd say a lot. Some do. And mostly it's because, I mean, they're gonna go from level 1 to level 2 and they can just stay in a bachelor's. But if you look at like, I'm gonna have to get closer to it. Sorry, I'm blind. But if you're looking at 10 years experience, level 2, you're making 72,400. If you get 15 more credit hours, you're making 52 more dollars. But that doesn't pay for those college credit hours. So you don't have a lot of people moving up. Even if you have a doctorate, you can see that at 10 years experience, now you're looking at about a $10,000 increase between someone fresh out of college and a doctorate. A lot of educators feel that it's not worth it. You're going to go into debt and there's not a lot of return on it. I will tell you that in my time of administration, I have looked at a lot of research on, does it make a difference? And it doesn't.
Educational wise or
Education, yes, the training. You can have a brand new teacher come out, and they're amazing. They're phenomenal. Like they're a rock star. And you might have someone who has a master's and they're not. When you look at student outcomes, research says there's not really a lot of, that's not what makes the difference.
Yeah.
Susan, were you saying something?
No, I was coughing. I'm sorry. I unmuted. Sorry. I was just thinking of a personal comment because when I was teaching, I was encouraged to go back for a doctoral degree. I looked at the salary schedule. It was going to be $500 more a year. And I said, other than the prestige part of it, I said, no, I won't do it. So.
And I did the same thing. People, you should go get your doctorate. It costs a lot of money, a lot of time to get a doctorate. And what's really tragic is it's education and we're not truly valuing education. But on the flip side of that, a doctorate does not guarantee they're more effective as a teacher.
Prestige.
Right. This is our salary schedule. And honestly, one final comment. I've always been a little conflicted because you have a brand new teacher and they're amazing. And we've seen this. They put in the time, they work late, they're weekends, they're with the kids.
good help.
And then you have someone who is a level 3 and they're making 20,000 more and they're like 4 o'clock, I'm out the door. I'm not putting in an extra minute.
Right.
I've done my lesson plan. Like it's inequitable from what I have seen. I don't know what the answer is, but it's tough. It's tough. And I will say that a level 3 can be reversed by an administrator. I've never seen it happen.
Wow.
But you could tell Pat, I'm sorry, they're not, to be a level 3, you're supposed to have a whole skill set over and above. You're a master teacher. You put in all these things, you have the knowledge, you're a mentor. It doesn't work that way in practicality. And an administrator could request bump down to level 2. But I've just never seen anyone willing to do it. I have refused to allow a teacher to go to level 3 because I can do that. I mean, they need to be at level 2, but he wasn't, in my estimation, a master teacher. So this salary schedule will drive in the coming year any certified person hired by New America, their base salary. It tells us where we start. If a teacher comes in and they've got a bachelor's plus 15 and 12 years experience, we know what it is. That sets the contract. So this basically gives guidance to the school from the governing council on what is the, what are we gonna pay teachers? And as I said, we met the, Mike ran this through. He met the state minimum requirements. We increased it 5,000 over that. And then he has a formula and it just runs it through and increases it through the rest of the spreadsheet.
So this is consistent with the salary discussions we've.
It is. Mhm. This is just you looking at it on paper, but the discussions we've had in regards to the salaries, the budget, this is what sets it. It's always tricky between level ones and level threes. Level threes are so expensive, and sometimes it's worth it, and sometimes you're sad. Yeah. And then of course you have people who are ABD, all but doctorate. They have all the hours, but they didn't finish the thing. But that's that 45.
Okay, then could I get a motion to approve the budget and salary schedule as presented?
So weird.
One,
Yes.
pause a moment. If the motion could be as presented, but give the school administration permission to make any changes as required in the upcoming budgetary season as the governor signs her things that we have to change based on changes in law.
Are you gonna give us a principal's report on what's happened?
Ileana will be
Signed?
giving you that
I'm
report.
sorry, Eliana, yes.
Oh, I'll be here in May.
In May,
Yes,
last night.
sorry.
I will be giving you that report
So
in May.
you'll give that,
Oh, she'll still be here.
I'll still be here.
after,
Yes.
after the, where's that period of
Session.
time where she could sign?
Yes, and remember, we will go in and we will submit the budget and we will submit our calendar and all the things. And they might come back and ask for changes, but certainly, by June, it'll be finalized. Mike, would you say June, it'll be done? Because APS has to go through this too.
Right, but, as far as like, without any other changes, like even from PED,
Mhm.
so the statutory deadline is June 20. So after that, it's like, in concrete. And then we get to July, as a council can adjust the budget as you wish after that anyways, so. Unfortunately, we have an early budget, but, we have the option to adjust it next year. anyways.
So. This is to approve the budget and salary schedule with permission to make changes if needed.
Due to changes in legislation or federal. Mhm. As
Second.
necessary.
Or so moved?
Moved by Anthony,
Second.
second by Fred. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye.
I,
Yeah, we might not have a department. of
Margie
Education.
is waving on that one.
Got her, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Affirmative wave or
Yeah,
something like that?
no, that means. So next we have the calendar.
Calendar. All right. I have so many things open right now. Let me go find a calendar. What's it on, Eliana? It's not on Word. So it's on PDF, so it's over here. And I'm all, which one is it? It's gotta be. To the right, all the way here. All right, let me share this because it occurs to me I didn't share it last. To share calendar, and I am going to let Ileana walk you through this calendar. And the process that we went through to put it all together.
So we've already kind of talked a little bit about some of the calendar guidance that came out. We have to have at minimum 155 days with students. And then we were looking for the additional 10 days. We were required to stay 4 days only, within every week. And so trying to get to the 165 days, we just went through and, started counting days. matching up the breaks as close as possible to the big breaks to the APS schedule, because we have a lot of students with younger siblings that attend APS schools, and when APS is on break, inevitably our students are home with siblings. So we matched the big breaks, the spring break, the winter break, those types of things, as close as possible. And then we just started filling in days. We did get together with staff to talk about, again, what our non-negotiables were, how many days we needed. And kind of went from there. In counting days, it did require us to start, you'll see there, in July, the 28th will be the first day with students. And ending, taking us into the first week of June. A couple things to note on there is that this does keep 4-day weeks for every week. Staff felt very strongly that they would like to have Labor Day and Memorial Day off. So we shifted that week. So there will be school on Friday, those 2 weeks,
So, but not on Monday.
but not on Monday. We felt that it was a give or take. We were gonna have probably struggles with attendance on the Monday anyways. We may struggle with some attendance on the Friday.
Exactly.
So it was a give or take for what the staff felt were very important, federal holidays for them.
Yeah.
The other holidays that fall on Mondays, President's Day, Indigenous people, those, we did not, we will be here on those Mondays. We are required by law to be off on election day or closed on election day. So that day, that week in November is a short week.
Which I'd like to point out that we knew that, but apparently quite a few charters didn't know that. So much so that it was mentioned specifically again
Which part did
today,
they know that November 5th is election day or that?
that you had to take it off.
that you were required.
And I just have to think they don't have Susan as an attorney.
Okay.
But I mean, we knew that. It's just, I was kind of surprised that the pushback.
I know I'm in the middle of this, but we have a parent out here looking for our, give me 1 second, I'm sorry.
Yes. We do have Scholars Night tonight, so they are going out to the not gym to be recognized. So we're kind of bouncing the two things here.
Sorry. So we did look at, we also went ahead, let me see, come back to you. Election day being closed. Keeping our breaks again aligned with APS, Thanksgiving there, winter. Coming back in January. Spring break is aligned with APS. That was really late for us, so there was a lot of talk about how late that would be and what a stretch that'll be. Then yeah, taking us all the way into that first week of June. We went ahead and counted out our semesters, figured out where our final exams will be, where our student-led conferences will be, because we are also allowed to count 30 hours of professional work time in our days. So we went ahead and lined those out as well. And that was pretty much the process that we went through. Staff was really supportive, understanding of, not having the Mondays anymore.
Might want to, since statute is 1,140 hours, you might want to cover what hours what hours are we working next year? The instruction for students, just to make sure we meet that threshold.
Yes, so in order, we met that this year, so in order to keep in alignment with having the required number of minutes, we're keeping our schedule pretty much for students the same. They will start at 8:20 to 3:35. And again, with the block schedule and the flexibility, it doesn't mean that every student has to be here that whole entire time. So we do have a lot of flexibility, which is another one of the buy-ins for students here, is that they can start late or they can end early if they need to work, things like that. So we're still able to meet those minutes. And then we are looking at some possibilities with staff day in terms of, shortening their day a little bit and having them on a shift schedule as well to meet kind of where the students need to be. So those conversations are still happening. But this meets all of the calendar requirements that were set out.
I have a question. On the election day on November the 4th, is that a local election? Because the general elections aren't till November 26th.
Correct. We don't have to be closed for the local elections, but we do have to be closed on election day each year. even if it's not a general election year.
Is that right? Oh, okay, that's news to me.
Yes.
Just- Okay, great, thank you.
You know, and when we look at this as a 4-day week to try to get, if we had lowered our hours to match APS, it essentially makes you a year-round school. So we had to stick with our long hours. And of course, you can't go allegedly more than 7.5 hours a day. Which we've done in the past, but now they say they will not allow it, and you can't go less than 5.5. But that is the time that instruction is offered. And worth noting that the 30-minute mandatory lunch and any time before and after it does not count towards those instructional hours, which is what takes us just a little bit longer. You might want to, since we are recording publicly, mention your parent input. Because we are required to have it for calendar.
We did do
Another little record.
We also did put out, I put out in the newsletter prior, as well as an invitation to families to come and to join us to discuss, you know, budgetary considerations as well as the calendar for the year. We had this working session with staff on a Friday, and did invite parents to do that, is to come and give, input as well.
And did you get any?
We did not.
Got some from students though.
We did.
Students felt pretty strongly about not being here on Fridays.
They're on Friday.
Yeah,
I would have.
me too.
Mhm.
And we also, you know, a lot of input for students was also things like, in support of keeping that, like I talked about, keeping the 2 positions, where one is doing a lot of the electives. One of the things the students felt really strongly about was the Fridays. The other thing they felt really strongly about in terms of budgetary considerations were that they wanted elective classes and fun things.
Sounds.
Yes.
It really is.
Students have a lot to say if you look.
Okay,
Could I get a motion to approve the calendar as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Fred,
Second.
second by Anthony. Any further discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
I,
Thank you. So next we have the LPA.
so many things on the LPA. All right, guys, we are getting down to getting this done. We have,
There's something in your packet. that shows-
there's probably a lot of things in your packet. So, in working with, Laura and Susan pretty carefully, we have the approval from, PSFA to move forward. We have the sources and uses documents. You have all those documents. And we have the contract, which brings us down to, let me share this real quick. I do want to share it. As soon as my computer shares. Okay. I did speak to Laura today. Yeah. Why is this, it's blocking? I did to Laura today, and I know Susan did too, and Paul. And just to, and now the whole thing is locked up, so let's hope that this, I'm just not gonna touch the computer for a moment. Can you guys still hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and I know it's not recording what's on our screen, but we do have everything queued up for the LPA. Susan, did you kind of want to go over anything that you think is relevant while I'm waiting for my documents to unfreeze?
yeah, basically the main terms of the lease purchase agreement are spelled out or summarized in the resolution. that I've prepared for you guys. That is what you should be passing tonight if you decide to approve this. The motion would be, I move that we pass the resolution number and you assign it a number. And that is the resolution that I have to submit along with the lease purchase arrangement and all the exhibits. So, in your packet is the lease purchase arrangement and all the exhibits. There is a purchase price for the non-gym of $883,033. You're gonna put down $683,033 of your long accrued capital outlay, mill levy money. And then you're going to, over 2 years, pay off the $200,000 balance through the LPA. At the end of that, you will own that non-gym and all the fixtures, and you will also be assigned CSDC's interest as lessee in the Archdiocese ground lease. At that point, then, you will not have any further lease obligations with CSDC. Your payments will be under the ground lease to the Archdiocese, and then whatever portables you have leased through William Scotsman or whomever. So that will significantly decrease your facilities outlay every year. And in fact, your monthly payment under this for this $200,000 will drastically reduce your facilities payments as well. And you'll be able to get rid of, hate to say that, but you'll be able to use that 683 or that big pot of HB and SB money that the school has accrued over, I don't know, the last 10 or 15 years. So.
Thank you, Susan. On our side, I can't pull anything up because my Zoom is frozen. Like I would have to shut down Zoom. If you guys want me to do that and reopen it.
No.
Well, it was provided by Ileana to the governing council in an email. So all of that should, if you have the email from the 9th, excuse me, from.
Yeah. It's all there.
Yeah.
So I do have the resolution in front of me.
Is that a number?
01042024 2025.
01.
0104.
Uh-oh. What happened?
I lost the meeting.
Yeah.
See the three of us on Zoom. Weird. It's not happened before.
Wonder if we need to sign off and sign back in.
Thinking the same thing.
Well, I'm going to try that at least.
I'm too.
Okay.